Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, classmates. I'm Jinsam Lante Dada. Ang iulat namin ngayon ay ang Chapter 17, Rizal in Brazil's 1890. So, on January 28, 1890, Rizal left Paris for Brazil's capital of Belgium. Two reasons impelled Rizal to leave Paris, namely, the cost of living in Paris was very high because of the international exposition, and the gay social life of the city hampered his literary works, especially the writing of his second novel, El Filibusterismo. His friends, including M.H. del Pilar and Valentin Ventura, thought that he left because he was running away from a girl, as what happened when he left London. When he told them that the reason for his leaving Paris was economic because his money was dwindling, Ventura generously invited him to live with him in Paris without paying rent. He could not accept Ventura's invitation, for he had a high sense of dignity and would not accept charity from any man. So, noong January 28, 1890 ay nilisan ni Rizal ang Paris at pumunta ito ng Brazil. Dahilan kung bakit lumipat si Rizal ay una, napakataas ng halaga ng pamumuhay sa Paris at pangalawa ay nagiging balagid sa kanyang pagsulat ng El Filibusterismo ang kasiyahan sa lungsod. So, naisipan ng mga kaibigan ni Rizal na sina M.H. del Pilar at Valentin Ventura na kaya umalis si Rizal sa Paris ay dahil meron naman itong tatakasang babae katulad ng umalis siya sa London. So, sinabi naman ni Rizal ang dahilan sa kanila na kung bakit siya aalis ng Paris. So, niyaya naman ni Ventura si Rizal na manirahan sa kanila sa Paris kasama siya nang hindi nagbabayad ng upa o ng renta. Ngunit, tinanggihan naman ito ni Rizal. So, life in Brazil. Rizal was accompanied by Jose Albert when he moved to Brazil. They lived in a modest boarding house on 38th Rue Philippe Champagne, which was run by two Jacobi sisters. Later, Albert left the city and was replaced by Jose Alejandrino, an engineering student. So, kasama ni Jose Rizal si Jose Albert sa pagpunta ng Brazil. So, nanirahan silang dalawa sa paupahan o boarding house ng dalawang magkapatid na Jacobi na sina Susan at Marie Jacobi. Umalis si Albert at pinalit niya si Jose Alejandrino na isang engineering student. So, in Brazil, Rizal was busy writing his second novel, which was continuation of Noli. He was never idle even for an hour. Aside from writing its chapter, he wrote articles for La Solidaridad and letters to his family and friends. Being a physician, he spent part of his time in the medical clinic. For recreation, he had gymnastics at the gymnasium and target practice and fencing at the armory. Those he wrote to Antonio Luna, I go to the clinic, I read, I write, I go to the gymnasium and to the armory. Speaking of shooting, I am sending you a target containing 10 bullet holes. It was 7.5 meters from me. At 25 meters, I can put all my shots into 20 centimeter target. So, si Rizal daw ay abala sa Brazil sa pagbuo ng kanyang pangalawang novel na nagpapatuloy o karugtong ng Noli. So, si Rizal daw ay hindi naging tamad kahit isang oras. hindi niya sinayang yung mga oras sa pagsusulat. So, bukod sa pagbuo ni Rizal ng nole, nagsulat din siya ng mga artikulo para sa La Solidaridad at sulat para sa kanyang pamilya at mga kaibigan. So, bilang isang physician si Rizal, ginugol niya ang kanyang oras sa medical clinic. So, naging libangan din ni Rizal ang pagpunta sa himnasyo o gymnasium para mag-exercise at sa armory sa armory naman para sa pamamaril at pag-e-ekskrima. Sumulat si Rizal kay Antonio Luna at sinabi niya dito sa sulat na pumupunta siya sa clinic, nagbabasa, sumusulat at pumupunta sa gymnasium. Magpapadala raw si Rizal ng target niya na may naglalaman ng 10 butas ng bala na 7.5 metro ang layo mula sa kanya. Speaking of Rizal's frugality, Jose Alejandro, his roommate in Brazil, said, "In Brazil, we took our meals in-house and Rizal on one occasion suggested that we eat pancit. We have spending so much a day, and so we spent one day's appropriation for the purchase of the necessary ingredients. It seems, however, that we committed an error in his calculations this time, for we spent 2 days' appropriation and the pancit came out more than what we intended to have. In order to remedy the error, we compelled to have pancit for lunch and supper for 2 days." So, pinag-uusapan ang pagiging matipid ni Rizal. Sinabi ni Alejandro na sa Brazil daw, dinadala nila ang kanilang pagkain sa ibang bahay at nagsuggest naman si Rizal na magluto sila o kumain sila ng pansit. Gumastos sila ng sobra sa isang araw kaya ginugol nila ang araw na paglalaanan para sa pagbili ng mga sangkap. Napag-isip-isip ni Rizal at Alejandrino na sobra pala ang nabili nilang sangkap. So, napag-isip-isip nila na habang ginagawa nila na niluluto nila yung pansit, ang sobra na lang daw na pansit ay kakainin nila sa araw na yon, pagdating ng tanghali at sa susunod pang araw. Rizal's articles in La Solidaridad. We have stated before that Rizal favored Lopez Jaina's founding of La Solidaridad in order to have an organ of the propaganda. He used 2 pen names, Dimas Alang and Laong Laan. So, nailahad na nga noon na pinapaboran ni Jose Rizal si Lopez Jaina ng La Solidaridad na upang magkaroon ng isang organ of propaganda. So, among his splendid articles which appeared in La Solidaridad from 1889 to 1890 were the following. Number 1, La Verdad para Todos, The Truth for All, issue of May 31, 1889. This is the first article of Rizal written for La Solidaridad. Number 2, Verdades Nuevas, New Truths, July 31, 1889. Number 3, Una Profanation, July 31, 1889, a biting attack against the friars from refusing to bury Mariano Herbosa in the Catholic cemetery because he was a brother-in-law of Rizal. Number 4, Differences, September 15, 1889. Number 5, Filipinas dentro de Clen Afios, The Philippines of Century Hence, published serially on September 30, October 31, December 15, 1889, and February 1, 1890. It contains a prophecy that someday the Filipinos will rise in revolution against Spain and win their independence, but later the Philippines should come under the rule of the United States. Number 6. Ingratitude. Ingratitudes, January 15, 1890. A reply to Governor General Weyler, who, while visiting Laguna Province in company with the Dominicans, said that the people should not let themselves be deceived by the vain promises of ungrateful sons. Number 7. Sin Nobre, without without name, February 28, 1890. Number 8. Sobre la nueva ortografía de la lengua Tagala. On the new orthography of the Tagalog language, April 15, 1890. In this article, Rizal advocates the use of a new spelling in Tagalog. Number 9. Cross de Filipinas. Things about the Philippines. April 30, 1890. Number 10. Sobre la indolencia de los Filipinos. On the indolence of the Filipinos. July 15 to September 15, 1890. This a brilliant essay in defense of the Filipino indolence. So, yung mga nabasa ko, yun yung mga nakastate sa La Solidaridad na kahulugan na powerful siya against friars. So, Rizal criticized Madrid Filipinos for gambling. In Brazil, Rizal received news from Juan Luna and Valentin Ventura that the Filipino in Spain were destroying the good name of their nation by gambling too much. These two compatriots in Paris urged him to do something about it. Accordingly, Rizal wrote to M.H. Del Pilar on May 28, 1890 to remind the Filipinos in Madrid that they did not come to Europe to gamble, but to work from their fatherland's freedom. His letters run as follows. Luna in Paris complains of the gambling of the Filipinos in Madrid. So those Ventura, they say that according to news from the Philippines, the parents are very much disgusted. I am afraid we are serving the prior's scheme. There is nothing at home to remind them that the Filipino does not come to Europe to gamble and amuse himself, but to work for his liberty and for the dignity of his race. It is not necessary to leave the Philippines to gamble, for they already gamble very much. If we who are called upon to do something, if we in whom to poor Filipino place their modest hopes, spend our time in these things precisely, when the years of youth should be employed in something more noble and lofty, for the very reason that youth is noble and lofty. I fear much that we are fighting for a useless illusion, and that instead of being worthy of liberty, we are worthy of slavery. I appeal to the patriotism of all Filipinos to give the Spanish people proof that we are superior to our misfortune, and that neither are we capable of being brutalized, nor can our noble sentiments be deadened with the corruption of customs. The gambling Filipinos in Madrid were angry when they learned Rizal's moralizing. Thereafter, they called Rizal Papa instead of Pepe. So, yun, nakatanggap daw ng balita si Rizal mula sa mga kaibigan niya na sina Juan Luna at Valentin Ventura na ang mga Pilipino daw sa Espanya ay sinisira daw ang pangalan ng bansa na which is ang Pilipinas sa pamamagitan ng pagsusugal. According kay Rizal, hindi nila kailangan pumunta ng Europa para magsugal. Pumunta sila ng Europa para magtrabaho para sa kanilang pamilya. So, ayun na nga na nabigo o nadismaya ang magulang ng mga Pilipino dun sa Espanya dahil imbis na mag, maghanap sila ng pera at magtrabaho, ang ginawa nila sa Espanya is magsugal. So, yun na nga sinabi ni Rizal na hindi sila pumunta ng Europa para magsugal, kundi dapat maghanap buhay para sa ikabubuti ng kanilang pamilya. Nagsakripisyo na umalis ng Pilipinas, pero bakit sugal ang pinunta sa ibang bansa? So, ang sabi dito ni Rizal, takot siya sa takbo na nakikipaglaban sila para sa isang walang silbi na ilusyon na sa halip na maging karapat-dapat sa kalayaan ay maging karapat-dapat sa alipin. So, nagalit kay Rizal ang mga Pilipino na nagsusugal sa Madrid dahil nalaman ng mga Pilipino ang moralidad ni Rizal. So, pagkatapos noon ay tinawag nila si Rizal na Papa or Pope na sa halip ay Pepe. Ang sinasabi nila o tingin nila kay Rizal ay nagmamagaling. Hindi naman talaga nila alam kung ano talaga ang nangyayari. So, yun yung nangyari sa Rizal criticized Madrid Filipinos for gambling. Bad news from home. Letters from home which Rizal received and Brazils were with him. The Calamba agrarian trouble was getting worse. The management of the Dominican hacienda continually raised the land rents until such time that Rizal's father refused to pay his rent. Other tenants, inspired by Don Francisco's courage, also refused to pay their rents. The Dominican order filed a suit in court to dispose the Rizal family of their lands in Calamba. Meanwhile, the tenants, including the Rizal family, were persecuted and ejected from their lands. Pasiano and the brothers-in-law, Antonio Lopez, husband of Narcisa, and Silvestre Ubaldo, husband of Olympia, were deported to Mindoro. Another brother-in-law, Manuel T. Hilgaldo, husband of Saturna, was banished for a second time to Bohol. The sad news from home depressed Rizal. His heart bled to know the sorrowful plight of his parents, brother, and brothers-in-law from Brazils. From Brazils, he wrote to his sister Soledad on June 6, 1890. I have caused so much harm to our family, but at least there remain to us the consolation of knowing that the motivate is not disgraceful nor does it humiliate anybody. On the contrary, it raises us up and gives us more dignity in the eyes of our very enemies themselves. To fall with the head high and to brow serene is not to fall with the stain of dishonor. Moreover, I may be what my enemies desire me to be, yet never an accusation are they able to hurt against me which makes me blush or lower my forehead. And I hope that God will be merciful enough with me to prevent me from committing one of those faults which would involve my family. So, yung natanggap na mensahe ni Rizal na yung lupa nga na binibenta na. Na-depress o nalulumbay si Rizal sa nalaman niya. So, sinisisi ni Rizal ang sarili niya dahil siya daw ang nagdala ng sakit kung bakit pinagdadaanan ng pamilya niya yung ganong klaseng sitwasyon. So, sa paglaban ni Rizal sa mga Spaniards o Kastila ay hindi siya yung inaatake, kundi ang kinakalaban nila is yung pamilya ang inuuna o kinakalaban nila is yung pamilya ni Rizal. Si Rizal talaga yung tinatarget nila, pero dinadahan-dahan nila sila Rizal at inuuna nila ang pamilya ni Rizal. Para daw maramdaman ni Rizal na mali ang kinakalaban niya o hindi basta-basta ang kanyang kinakalaban. So, pinapasa Diyos na lang ni Rizal upang makaiwas o maiwasan niyang makagawa ng isa sa mga kamalian na pwedeng ikasangkot ng kanyang mga pamilya. So, hanggang doon lang po ang aking ulat at ang magpapatuloy at magtatapos ng chapter 17 ay si Edmund M. Aplan.